British engineering company Rolls-Royce has been accused of being involved in a multi-billion-dollar bribery and kickback scheme at Petrobras, Brazil's state-controlled oil producer. With me to discuss the implications for Rolls-Royce is Peggy Hollinger, our industry editor. Peggy, start by telling us what these accusations are against Rolls-Royce.
Well, a Petrobras veteran has accused Rolls-Royce of paying bribes in return for getting contracts with Petrobras. He says that allegedly he received $200,000 in bribes from the company, and he doesn't give dates, and it's unclear exactly what the timing of all this is. But we do know that Rolls-Royce has been working in Brazil for 50 years. It has done a lot of work with Petrobras for more than a decade.
Rolls-Royce, of course, is only one of many companies that are now being implicated in this very large scandal that is even touching the Brazilian government. But for Rolls-Royce itself, how serious do you think these accusations could prove to be?
I think they could be quite serious. I mean, let's face it, we are now cracking down on bribery and corruption in a much more active way around the world. And for a company like Rolls-Royce, which actually participates in government tenders, if you're found guilty of corruption or bribery, you can be barred from these tenders. It's very, very serious for a company like Rolls-Royce. And don't forget, it's also under investigation here in the UK by the Serious Fraud Office.
I was going to ask you about that as well. What are those allegations?
Well, those allegations actually arise from Rolls-Royce itself passed documents on to the SFO back in December 2012, where it had found issues of concern to the SFO. And it was its own investigation that turned these up. And literally I think it was a year later, yes, December 2013, they then launched a criminal investigation into these allegations involving alleged bribery in China and Indonesia and other countries as well.
So what is Rolls-Royce saying about the allegations, particularly these new allegations that have come from Brazil?
Well, very little, apart from a very robust statement saying that they will not tolerate any improper behaviour. And it is fair to say that Rolls-Royce has actually, since uncovering these issues of concern back in 2012, it has actually implemented a number of procedures. They've appointed a new head of risk. They've brought in Lord Gold, who was the man who advised on BAE's investigation, BAE's compliance procedures. They've brought Lord Gold in to actually help them in terms of compliance and developing new procedures to identify these. And other issues, they've reduced quite significantly the number of intermediaries that they use in foreign markets, because that's where the greatest risk is. And as a result, you can actually see their own employees internationally going up, their regional directors, because they'd rather have these people in-house than use these middlemen, where a lot of the danger lies.
All these accusations against Rolls-Royce come at a difficult time for the company in any case. Profits are going to be less this year than were expected. Sales have been falling. The company's going through a big restructuring under Chief Executive John Rishton. How difficult is that for them?
It is true that there have been a whole raft of new anti-corruption, anti-bribery laws which are really cracking down on it. And he's trying to change the culture industrially, as well as in terms of the way you do business internationally. So it's quite a big task for him, because at the same time he's got a massive industrial challenge trying to meet demand for these aircraft engines, and the aircraft market is undergoing a phenomenal boom.
So do you think, when it all comes down to it, investors will be very worried about this Petrobras accusation, or do you think it's something that they'll take in their stride?
Well, I think the jury is out. I think analysts know this is going on. I think Rolls-Royce is not the only company who's being subject to these investigations. I think people will wait to see. It's very difficult to quantify. The rules have changed. The fines can be potentially enormous, but until we know whether they will be fined or not, it's very difficult to say what the impact will be. It is also possible for Rolls-Royce, if it cooperates fully with the SFO, to do what's called a deferred prosecution agreement, which means they pay a heavy fine, but they wouldn't be prosecuted, and therefore it wouldn't jeopardize their government contracts. That's where the real area of concern is. If it touches their future business, that's a serious problem.
Well, we'll watch how this unfolds. Thank you very much indeed, Peggy.
Thank you.